started off last year. We were founded by our friend and last year's president, Katie Sell, and hopefully we are the first of many university societies. We shall see. So for those of you who don't know, Bloody Good Periods are a national charity that help tackle period poverty. They provide hygiene products, mostly menstrual products, but not exclusively. They also provide things like deodorant and a shower gel to people in need. The charity started off as a kind of Facebook whip round for the refugee drop-in centre that the founder was volunteering in, and has quickly grown and now works with over 40 asylum seeker drop-in centres around the country. And Bloody Good does more than just provide period products. They also work with other organisations to do research and produce reports on period poverty. They run workshops on female sexual and reproductive health, and they work to kind of break the stigma and normalise periods. Which brings me on to what we are doing here today. As a society, our main aim for this year is to help break the stigma around periods, and we think one of the best ways to do that is to talk about periods, and learn about periods, and educate ourselves about periods, and just never really shut up about periods. So that is why we've started our fortnightly talks, strings attached. Well done me thinking of that name. Very impressed with myself. It's probably not a very, what's the word? Original, but we're going with it. I love it. So our main aim is kind of, to run these talks, fortnightly talks on all things periods. We as the committee are not experts on all things periods. This is as much our journey as yours. We're here to learn and educate ourselves with you. We have got a list of topics that is incredibly long. Who knew there were so many things to talk about regarding periods? And we are certainly not the best people to run all of those talks. So we're really hoping that some of these talks will be run by guest speakers, whether that be from outside of the university or from other university societies, or by our members, and by other committee members as well. So if you have any ideas for topics, or you want to run a talk, we want to get involved, just get in contact with us, we would love that. Now on to the talk a bit more. So first off, I am Rachel, I'm this year's president. I'm going to be running this talk today. I'm not an expert in period poverty. This is just my knowledge from reading and research I've done. So if there's anything that you disagree with, that you want to correct me on, or that you think I've kind of missed out, just let us know. We are having a discussion after this, or if you're watching a recording, then you can just pop it in the comments and we'll get back to you. But we're all learning, so feel free to educate me. Also bear with me because public speaking is horrible and I have not spoken to anyone really in a long time, so I will definitely trip over my words, just bear with. So our first talk is on period poverty. What else, given that we are a society representing a period poverty charity? So we're going to talk about not only what it is and what causes it, but also how we can tackle it, what we as individuals can do, and what we need to see from kind of governments and the higher ups to be able to make a real difference. Simply put, period poverty is being unable to access menstrual products. This is usually due to financial constraints, but there are other issues involved. I think it's really important to look at the second part of this definition, having a poor knowledge of menstruation. Tackling period poverty is not as simple as just handing people tampons. There's no point in doing that if the person has no knowledge of what their period is, how to use a tampon, how to dispose of it safely. It's just pointless, it doesn't address the issue at all. Education is one of the most important things we can do about tackling period poverty and ensuring that people with periods know what they are, what to expect, how to deal with them, how to cope with them, how to use products, how to safely dispose of them, what is healthy so they know what is unhealthy, the whole shebang. And period poverty not only encompasses the lack of products, but also includes having inadequate access to toilets, hand washing facilities, and just hygienic waste management facilities. So I'm going to throw some facts at you now, because I think people really tend to underestimate the extent of period poverty, particularly in the UK. We are seen, we are one of the richest of girls have missed an entire day of school due to their period. And over the course of the year, over 137,000 children in the UK miss school because of period poverty. And it is not just young people who struggle. 1 in 7 people with periods have been forced to improvise because they don't have access to proper menstrual products. So this can be anything from like tissue to old rags, socks, newspaper, you name it, and someone has probably been forced to use it at some point, which is ridiculous. Women have to miss work. They can be confined to their households for a week every month due to their periods and not having access to proper products. Parents are forced to choose between buying food and nappies for their kids or menstrual products for themselves. Girls with special needs and disabilities are disproportionately affected because they don't have access to facilities and the resources they need for proper menstrual hygiene. In fact, period poverty disproportionately affects women of colour, transgender, gender non-conforming and non-binary people, homeless people, students, and those who belong in low-income households, not belonging, but are in low-income households. So it really is a massively widespread issue, and this is just in the UK. We are the 6th largest economy in the world. Women are, for the most part, equal. We won't go into that now, but we are not treated as second-class citizens, mostly. And periods are supposedly, understood and talked about, and yet we are still having all of these issues. Just imagine in other countries where there is so much more stigma around periods, where women are banished to huts while they're on their period, they can't join in with religious ceremonies, young women are told that their menstrual blood can cause disease, or are told not to cook for their family while they're on their period because they'll poison them, but they're forced to use leaves and mud to soak up blood. Things are just so widespread that it's hard to get your head around, to be completely honest. So kind of what are the impacts? I'm going to start off here with kind of the personal impacts on individuals experiencing period poverty before moving on to kind of the global consequences of this. So of course there are health implications. Not having access to products not only leads to women or people using unsuitable products, but it means that they use the products they do have for longer than they should, which massively increases their risk of toxic shock syndrome. I can never say that. And they might not even have the education to know what toxic shock syndrome is, how to prevent it, and what the kind of symptoms to watch out for. So it's kind of a vicious cycle. And unsuitable products are not just uncomfortable. They can lead to infection. This could be from like UTIs to much more serious issues, especially when people don't have the facilities to clean them correctly. And around the world, many people that suffer from period poverty have also undergone female genital mutilation, which increases their risk of infection. And of course, it's not just your physical health that suffers, your mental health does. It is under-researched how period poverty affects people's mental health, as it is with all women's issues. But there are reports that show that women living in period poverty are more likely to suffer depression and anxiety, and that it can have a long-term effect on people's mental well-being. I know that personally, during my period, my mental health plummets, and I cannot imagine having on top of that the stress of not being able to afford the correct products, the embarrassment and shame you feel about not being able to afford them, the trauma of having to use unsuitable products, the effort people feel they need to go to hide it. It's just impossible to imagine how these people deal with this month after month after month. Sorry, I'm probably talking really fast. It's nerves, and I just do it all the time. So as I spoke about earlier, people are missing school because of their periods, and it's having a major impact on their education. It's not only just period poverty itself that causes this, the stigma around periods has been shown to directly affect a child's potential to succeed. It's also shown that knowledge of effective treatments for period pain is low, and that girls with period pain experience reduced classroom performance and lower levels of attendance. So people's education is suffering because of periods. Periods are one of the most natural things in the world. Half the population have them. They have done since kind of the dawn of time. Putting people at a disadvantage at such a young age is light periods is just so truly unacceptable. And it doesn't just end when you leave school. People living in period poverty are forced to miss job interviews and other opportunities. They're forced to take more sick days, I suppose all the same, keeping them trapped in the cycle of poverty. So the wider consequence of this is that it stops people reaching their full potential. Who knows what these girls are capable of, but if they keep being forced to miss school, we will never know what they can do. And young women that do not receive an education are far more likely to enter child marriages, experience early pregnancy, malnourishment, domestic violence, pregnancy complications. The impacts of this go way beyond just struggling to get through your period without the access to necessities, which is bad enough in itself. And the impacts of period poverty are much wider than people kind of first think. It affects the economy as well. It's been found that the longer women spend in education, it's been linked to an increase in annual per capita income and an increase to GDP. So it's really important for everyone that women are encouraged to stay in education and have the ability to. And yeah, by keeping women trapped in this cycle of poverty, we are holding them back, and we are holding kind of female empowerment and the women's movement back. People are never going to get into places they should be, kind of the main offices and things, if we are holding them back from getting an education in the first place. Oh, I'm just going to have a drink because my throat hurts. Okay, so what needs to change? So first and foremost, we need menstrual products to be affordable and tax-free. This one is a given, it needs no explanation. It should be happening already, but is not in the majority of the world. We also need to make products accessible. This relates to not just the ease of getting them and being able to afford them, but we need to improve the access to sanitation facilities globally and education around the products themselves. We also need better work and school-based policies to help women cope on their periods and to have more flexibility around their periods so they are not put at a disadvantage. I highly recommend everyone goes and reads about menstrual leave. It has a lot of kind of not what's the opposite of support. I'm having a mind blank. A lot of people are kind of against it because people feel that it will make men think that we are kind of weak and that women are not up to the standard. But it is not about that at all. It's about the fact that we should be held to the standard that we normally are during a week where we are bleeding and kind of doubled over in pain. It's just not okay. So definitely go read about menstrual leave. It's very interesting. But yeah, back to this. We also need policy in place that makes sure that things like the price of periods products are included when benefit schemes are being devised and developed, and that menstrual products are included in emergency parcels. So this is from things, just in food banks to kind of when we send out emergency parcels like during humanitarian crises. A lot of them do not include period products, which is ridiculous because periods do not stop whatever. And this kind of leads on to the fact that we need more representation. Governments have been led by rich white men for far too long, and without representation of people with periods, we're not going to see anything change. These problems are just going to go on unacknowledged for longer, and we're not going to get any viable solutions. I really am talking too fast. Oh well, you'll have to just watch it and slow down. And of course, we need more education. It's kind of all I'm banging on about in this talk is education, but I really do think it's one of the most important things we can do. We need to teach people about periods, and not just people that go through periods. We need to teach men, women, non-binary folk alike. Given that 50% of the population have periods, why are we not taught this in the first place? Why is everyone not taught this in primary school? I remember all I got at primary school was we got separated from boys in year 6. Someone waved a pad in front of us and kind of said, "Yeah, you'll start bleeding soon. Have fun. You're a woman now." This is obviously not really acceptable. We need to know more about our bodies. We need to know what to expect with our periods. deal with it and what is normal. So many women are in pain each month because they believe it's normal to be debilitated by your period. It's not. Go and see a doctor. Obviously, some pain is normal, but if you cannot live your daily life, that is not normal, and no one kind of teaches us this. And then when we do go and see doctors about it, they kind of dismiss us as women's issues. So we need education just for everybody. And we need a global standard of education as well to make sure that we can break these myths and taboos about periods. Deep breath. So the stigma around periods just needs to go. The implications of this stigma and misinformation are so wide that in reality we would need a whole other talk to fully get into that. But basically, while the stigma is around, period poverty will still be around. And following that, we need to change our language around periods, as it only adds to the stigma and misinformation. We need to stop talking about periods as if only women get them, as this erases the experience of trans men and non-binary people. And by saying that having your period is what makes you a woman, disregards all the women that do not have periods for whatever reason, and also can go on to say that, you know, once you hit menopause and you stop having your periods, sorry, you're no longer a woman, which just shows how ridiculous thinking, you know, womanhood to periods is. And we need to move away from phrases like menstrual hygiene and sanitary products, as this simply adds to the idea that periods are dirty. We should use phrases like menstrual health and menstrual products instead. Right, so what can we as individuals do? It can feel quite overwhelming and unachievable at times. We kind of fight this and make a difference, but there are steps that we can take. So first off is donate. Donate whatever you can, whether it's be money, products, time. There are so many amazing organisations that are working to end period poverty. I really encourage you to get involved. And this can be as simple as when you're doing your next weekly food shop, buy an extra pack of pads and put it in the food bank collection point. It can be as simple as that, or you can go volunteer, join movements, do whatever you want, get involved. So next up is talk about your period. I never shut up about mine. My boyfriend is fed up about hearing about my period, and my friends are definitely bored of my monthly Snapchat updates about my period, and me moaning about my period, and telling all kind of embarrassing stories that seem to happen to me around my period. And I'm quite lucky that I have grown up in a household that talking about periods is not a taboo. My dad would go out to the weekly shop and get me anything I needed. What affected me most was kind of the outside stigma. Which meant I stopped talking about my periods. I started buying products with my pocket money rather than just asking my dad. So I can't imagine the people that go through this and then on top of that are experiencing poverty, and they know that their parents cannot afford period products. So we need to use our voices to represent those that can't. I urge you to go away and talk to someone about your period, whether it's a funny story or a moan in the girls group chat, or next time you're taking paracetamol, don't lie and say it's for a headache. Tell people that it's for your period. It's time to kind of stop hiding it away. I really should learn to breathe and talk at the same time. So next up is to make your own periods as eco-friendly as possible. More on this on our next talk, which is periods and the environment. But basically, if you have the financial needs to invest in a usable and sustainable menstrual product, such as a cup or period pants, washable pads, They come with a learning curve, trust me, but they, once you get used to them, are so much better, and they make your period much more environmentally friendly, and not only that, but they last for years and years, meaning that in the long run they will save you money. But it's also important to remember our privilege. If we can afford the initial payout, and we have not only the ability to use them, they work for our bodies, but we have access to proper cleaning facilities to use them safely. So next up, kick up a fuss. Simple. Don't sit back and ignore the issue. Write to your MP about period-related issues, whether this be ones that are being talked about in Parliament currently or ones that aren't. Sign petitions, join movements, talk to your schools, universities and workplaces about the policies they have regarding periods and providing period We are really lucky that RSE does provide period products, but this should be much more of a kind of, this should be the norm rather than the not norm. I can't remember what the word is. I'm good at this public speaking stuff. And yeah, just our next one is to work to break the stigma, as I keep going on about. But I urge you to kind of stop hiding your tampons away when you're walking to the toilet. Don't put them up your sleeve. Don't take your whole bag to the toilet with you. Don't wait for the hand dryers to go off to open your tampon. We shouldn't be ashamed of our periods. We should be proud of our periods. And we are lucky to live in a country where we can do this. We can talk about your periods. I can get up here and talk to you today about this. And it's not going to affect me or my life. And we need to use that privilege instead of just hiding away. And yeah, use our voice to educate other people when we hear something that's incorrect, correct people, educate people, just talk to anyone who can. And we need to change our own language. And I know this is hard. I've probably said things in this that I shouldn't have done. I've probably referred to it as like menstrual hygiene or sanitary products, or said just women rather than using inclusive language. But we need to make sure we are correcting ourselves and making our language inclusive. And we also need to stop saying things like time of the month and how many flows is it in, the painters are in, and just say we are having our periods. It's not a dirty word, and we need to stop treating it like it is. Right, you'll be thankful to know I'm nearly finished. So there are many great charities fighting period poverty, and I urge you to go away and look at the great work they are doing and how you can get involved and what they think you should do. Of course, we have Bloody Good Period, but there are so many others like Health and Hygiene, Free Periods, ActionAid, the Red Box Project, and Freedom for Girls, and just way more than I've mentioned or even probably know about. If you know any great ones, please let us know. So yeah, that is the end of me rambling on. We now have, if you're watching this, well, this is a recording, so we have any questions or thoughts you have, please put them in the comments and we will try and talk. We'd love to have a discussion with you about it.